Usually when we picture a modern-day prophet or, someone claiming a direct, unfettered line to the divine, there's a very specific, almost cinematic aesthetic we expect.
Oh, absolutely.
We picture someone on a remote, windswept mountaintop. Maybe they're fasting for weeks on end, meditating in absolute silence, completely untouched by the noise of the 21st century.
Right, they are entirely isolated from the modern world in that archetype. You envision them clothed in simple, unbranded robes, having achieved a complete detachment from, like, the material anxieties.
Bills, the career ladders.
Exactly. The bills, the politics, all the stuff that the rest of us are forced to navigate every single day.
Yeah, it's the ultimate rejection of earthly things. It feels clean, it feels ascetic, and it fits so neatly into our collective historical understanding of how a holy person is supposed to walk through the world.
But imagine if the ultimate proof of divine favor wasn't found in the serene silence of a secluded monastery. What if it was found under the harsh, flashing neon lights of a high-stakes casino floor in Sydney, Australia?
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the source material we are looking at today for our deep dive is a single, incredibly fascinating audio recording.
It really is wild.
It's an unpolished file titled simply live.m4a. And the speaker in this recording is taking us on an absolute roller coaster of a narrative. I mean, we are going to explore claims that sound like they were pulled straight from a supernatural thriller.
We're talking divine casino heists here.
Right. Divine casino heists, predicting gruesome unsolved crimes, and claiming a conversational, almost casual communication with God. But what is truly wild is that all of this escalating supernatural bravado ultimately leads to a philosophical punch to the gut.
It really does. It lands somewhere you just don't expect.
It lands on a moral philosophy that is shockingly grounded and applicable to your daily commute. So if you are listening to this right now, strap in. We are tracing one man's journey from perceived supernatural invincibility to a very humble, very gritty view of what true salvation actually looks like.
What's fascinating here is that regardless of your personal religious beliefs, or whether you buy into even a fraction of the supernatural elements of this narrative,
Which is a lot to buy into.
a huge amount, yes. But regardless of that, this audio file provides a remarkable psychological case study. It lays out, step by step, exactly how an individual constructs an entire belief system from scratch,
Right.
and how they attempt to validate that system through real-world verifiable events, and how they ultimately leverage that perceived authority to challenge and dismantle traditional mainstream religious structures.
It's a completely unique blend of the miraculous and the painfully mundane. So to even begin to wrap our heads around this speaker's philosophy, we have to start at the foundation. We have to look at his core claim of authority.
And it is a massive, uncompromising one.
Yes. He asserts, without hesitation, that he has direct conversational communication with God. But the actual mechanics of how this communication happens are entirely unexpected. I mean, when he asks God a question, say, asking for an opinion on a current politician or a global conflict or a personal dilemma, he doesn't get a booming cinematic voice from the clouds parting the heavens right then and there.
No, the mechanism he describes is much more passive and delayed, really. In the recording, he states that God rarely, if ever, answers him straight away while he's awake. Instead, the speaker explains that he has to physically go to sleep. It is only during that sleep state, or immediately upon waking from it, that God delivers his comments, his judgments, or, the answers to the questions the speaker posed hours earlier.
It is such a bizarrely relatable detail because it mirrors the very mundane human act of sleeping on a big decision.
Right, exactly.
When you have a massive problem at work or a conflict with a friend and you tell yourself, let me just sleep on it, hoping your subconscious mind untangles the mess by morning. Except in this narrative, instead of your own subconscious working through the anxiety, you are claiming the creator of the universe is essentially leaving you a cosmic voicemail while you are in REM sleep.
It's a very intimate framing.
It is. But I have to push back on this. I mean, we live in an age of deep fakes, endless scams, and hyper-skepticism. How does someone in this day and age expect an audience to just accept such an impossible premise?
Well, the speaker is surprisingly self-aware of that exact skepticism. He doesn't shy away from it in the audio at all. He leans into it.
Really?
Yeah, he explicitly acknowledges that in our current generation, no one has been able to definitively scientifically prove they converse with God. He knows full well that simply standing on a stage and stating, "God talks to me in my sleep," sounds completely absurd to the average person.
Sir, it sounds like every other street corner preacher.
Right. And he points out that the world is full of charlatans who claim divine connection without a single shred of actionable proof.
So he understands he's walking into the room with an enormous burden of proof on his shoulders.
He embraces that burden.
Yeah.
Because he knows he cannot just demand blind faith from his listeners. He introduces a concept he repeatedly calls the power of mind.
Okay.
And he doesn't frame this as some vague, warm, spiritual feeling in your chest. He frames it as a tangible, real-world mechanism. He claims this power was given to him by God specifically to provide skeptics with undeniable evidence that his connection is authentic.
Like a receipt.
Exactly like a receipt. His argument to the audience is essentially, I'm not asking you to take my word for it. I am going to show you physical, historical evidence of my supernatural knowledge playing out in real time.
And the first major piece of that evidence comes in the form of prophecy. He is predicting the future.
Yeah.
And we aren't talking about vague horoscope-style predictions like you will face a challenge next month. He is claiming to predict highly specific, verifiable human tragedies.
Yeah, the entire transition from claiming he talks to God to actually proving it to his followers hinges on his ability to foresee these dark events. The recording provides granular details on this.
Right. What's an example he gives?
For instance, he points to a prediction he claims to have made back in July of 2022. It involves a high-profile case centered around individuals named Padadungan and Atong Ang.
Okay.
According to his narrative, he publicly stated, long before any official police reports or confessions were released, that the victims in this case were murdered and, crucially, that their bodies were dumped specifically into the waters of Tal Lake.
Wow. That is an incredibly specific detail to put on the record.
It is, and the timeline he presents is equally important. He notes that it wasn't until 3 years later, in 2025, that official statements from Padadungan finally surfaced.
Validating the claim.
Validating it perfectly, confirming that exact gruesome detail of the bodies being submerged in the lake.
Waiting 3 years for a prediction to come true is a massive psychological hook for a follower. I mean, if you are listening to this guy in 2022 and he makes this wild claim about a watery grave, and then you watch the news in 2025 and see it verified, that 3-year gap almost works in his favor.
It absolutely does.
It builds anticipation, and when it hits, it retroactively validates everything else he has been saying during those 3 years.
It serves as an undeniable anchor for his congregation. It takes his supernatural claims out of the realm of abstract theology and grounds them in a verifiable historical timeline that his followers can point to when defending him to outsiders.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. He doesn't just rest his laurels on the things he predicted publicly and got right.
No, he goes much further.
He spends a very noticeable portion of this audio file talking about what he calls confidential knowledge. He claims his sleep voicemails from God include the darkest, most heavily guarded secrets of the world. We are talking about gruesome dismemberments and horrifying crimes that the public knows nothing about.
He goes so far as to detail a dark political conspiracy. He alleges that a specific political candidate actually had their own incumbent sibling murdered just to clear the path and win an election.
Just as a quick reminder to you listening, our mission today is strictly to unpack this speaker's fascinating narrative as it is presented in this audio file. We aren't verifying or endorsing these highly controversial political claims.
Or the supernatural ones, for that matter.
Exactly, or the supernatural ones. We are just exploring how he uses these explosive ideas to build his underlying philosophy. But, I mean, I have to call time out on his strategy here. He drops this bombshell about a political assassination, but then completely refuses to reveal the names or the full details, claiming it is too confidential.
Right.
Isn't that incredibly convenient? Claiming you hold the darkest secrets of the universe but simply can't share them is like the oldest trick in the book for avoiding any real scrutiny. How does he keep followers engaged when his biggest, most dramatic claims are essentially just, trust me, bro?
It seems counterintuitive, I know, but withholding that information is actually a calculated display of power. It is all about the rhetorical weight of secret knowledge.
How so?
Well, when a leader claims to hold unverifiable, world-shattering secrets, they create an aura of immense solitary burden. It positions the speaker as the ultimate insider, someone trusted by the creator of the universe with the deepest, most destabilizing realities of human nature.
Ah, so he is framing himself as the protector of the public.
Exactly. By saying the information is too confidential, he is sending a subconscious message to his audience. I know things so terrible, so dangerous, that I am actively protecting your sanity and safety by keeping them to myself.
Wow.
It dramatically elevates his authority. The verifiable 3-year prediction about the bodies in Tell Lake is the hook that proves to his followers he can see the hidden truth. The confidential knowledge is the psychological weight that proves he is mature enough to be trusted with that truth.
That makes him the ultimate unquestionable gatekeeper. But prophesying tragedy, whether public or secret, is a fairly standard trope in the history of self-proclaimed prophets. Where this audio file takes a massive screeching left turn is when he introduces his next piece of evidence.
It really is a wild pivot.
He claims that his most undeniable, physical proof of divine favor doesn't happen in a church or a vision or a tragedy. It happens at a place that is entirely secular, heavily mathematical, and specifically designed to mathematically strip you of your money.
The casino.
The casino.
The casino narrative is arguably the most fascinating divergence from any traditional religious framework we've seen in a source like this. He takes the concept of a miracle and applies it to gambling.
Paint the picture for us. What exactly is he claiming happens when he walks onto a casino floor?
He claims that God explicitly directs his gambling. According to the recording, he would walk into a casino, sit down at a specific slot machine, and God would communicate to him, this machine is going to hit the grand jackpot.
Just like that.
Just like that. And he isn't claiming he won a few $100 here and there. He states on the audio that he won the grand jackpot over 10 times, pulling in massive specific amounts like $5,000, $52,000, and even upwards of $90,500.
Wait, so he is claiming literal divine intervention on a digitized, algorithmically controlled slot machine? That sounds like a holy version of Ocean's 11.
Right.
And if that wasn't wild enough, he doesn't just stick to the slots, he moves over to the table games.
He moves specifically to the roulette table, and he names the actual companions who witnessed this, people he refers to as MJ, Susan, Pedro, and Charito. The mechanics he describes here are incredibly bold.
Because roulette is just physics, right?
Pure chaos physics. You have a counter-rotating wheel, a bouncing ball, a dealer throwing it with varying force. It is the definition of random chance.
Yet he claims he could predict exactly which number that bouncing ball would land on before the dealer even released it from their hand. He says he would stand there with his friends, point at the wheel, declare the winning number, and watch it hit. I mean, it is important to ask what a self-proclaimed prophet does with all this casino cash. Does he buy a mansion?
He addresses that directly to preempt criticism. He states that he utilized his own personal funds, along with these massive casino winnings, to entirely bankroll 16 years of weekly religious crusades.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he lists traveling across the Philippines, hosting massive events in Cebu, Bohol, and Manila, personally paying for the transportation, the venues, and the food for all of his followers.
But the people running the casinos didn't look at the security monitors and see a divine crusader funding a religious movement. They saw a statistical anomaly that was bleeding their vaults dry.
Exactly. They just saw a threat to their bottom line.
Right. And he spends a lot of time talking about the fallout from this winning streak.
Yeah.
He details being permanently banned from casinos in Australia, specifically naming properties in Sydney and Melbourne. He describes the humiliation of being treated like a criminal, being suspected of international money laundering, and being shadowed by floor supervisors while overhead cameras zoomed in on his hands.
It was intense.
And he emphasizes, with a lot of frustration, that he never committed a single crime. He never manipulated the machines, he didn't use devices, he just sat there, listened to his divine voicemail, and won. So what does this all mean? Are we supposed to believe he is a world-altering spiritual leader? Or just the luckiest, most observant high roller to ever walk into an Australian casino?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of his belief system, getting banned from those casinos is his ultimate crowning validation. Yes. Think about the environment of a modern casino in a place like Melbourne. It is a fortress of probability. It is one of the most surveilled, mathematically controlled, heavily regulated spaces on Earth. The eye-in-the-sky cameras, the facial recognition, the algorithms tracking every bet, the pit bosses, all of it is designed with one singular purpose.
To catch people who beat the math.
Exactly, to catch people who beat the math. And his point is that the entire weight of that secular, multi-billion-dollar surveillance state watched his every move, and they completely failed to figure out how he was winning.
Because there was no earthly device to find?
Right. They couldn't catch him cheating because, according to him, he wasn't cheating in any earthly detectable sense. The casino security apparatus exhausted all their technological options, found nothing, and had no choice but to simply ban him from the premises.
That is wild.
To the speaker, and more importantly to his followers, this secular institutional ban is undeniable, documented proof of his supernatural gift. The casino is essentially throwing up its hands and admitting, "You are beating our math and we have no earthly explanation for how." For him, getting 86 from a casino is the modern, bureaucratic equivalent of Daniel surviving the lion's den.
That is an absolutely wild reframe. The very institution that is designed to expose frauds investigated him and came up empty. And once he establishes this unshakable casino-tested authority, the audio shifts dramatically.
It really does.
He uses the heavy credibility he just built to aggressively correct the theological errors of other religious leaders.
The transition in the recording is stark. He moves from boasting about $90,000 jackpots and political assassinations to initiating a highly specific, very granular theological debate. He calls out individuals he names as Ibaros and Rose.
Okay.
He strongly critiques them for conflating two distinct concepts, faith and love.
It seems like a massive step down in drama, honestly. Why pivot from taking down the Australian gambling industry to arguing over the dictionary definition of faith with a peer?
This raises an important question about how new religious movements establish dominance. Mainstream religious teachings often blend faith and love into one package.
Right, like God is love.
Exactly. The traditional logic is that God is love, therefore, if you have genuine faith in God, you inherently possess love. It is a very internal, feeling-based theology.
Yeah.
The speaker aggressively rejects this because internal feelings cannot be measured. He argues quite passionately that you can have faith, meaning a strict intellectual belief in the existence of God, without actually possessing a single ounce of love in your outward actions.
He believes that faith is just empty words if it isn't backed by tangible sacrifice. And to prove that this specific leader, Ibaros, is preaching a flawed message, the speaker doesn't just quote a Bible verse. He brings his divine authority back into the mix. He cites another vision from God. He details a vision of a roof made of corrugated iron. He uses the term euro in the recording.
The specifics of that vision are crucial. He describes this corrugated iron roof as having a massive 1-meter gap right in the middle of it.
Imagine a tropical rainstorm hitting a metal roof with a 3-foot hole in it. You are going to get completely drenched. He says God told him this leaky roof symbolizes Ibaros' understanding of salvation. It might look like a roof, it might cover you partially, but because it conflates faith with love, it is fundamentally incomplete. When the storm comes, that theology will still leave you wet and unprotected.
It is a brilliant rhetorical move. It is entirely about establishing a spiritual monopoly. By using a direct divine vision of the leaky roof to explicitly correct a peer, he strips Ibaros of his authority.
He takes the high ground.
He establishes himself as the sole, ultimate arbiter of what true salvation requires. He is actively clearing the theological slate. He is telling his audience that simply reading scripture, listening to mainstream pastors, or checking off the 10 Commandments is a leaky roof. It is not enough.
And this brings us to the absolute climax of the audio recording. After all the exhausting talk of prophetic murders, breaking the bank at casinos, and dismantling rival pastors with visions of corrugated iron, what does this complete watertight salvation actually look like? How do you patch the leaky roof?
It's surprisingly simple.
She introduces an analogy that is so staggeringly simple it actually gave me pause. It is the philosophy of the plastic bottle.
It is a profound shift in scale. He brings all this cosmic supernatural authority down to a deeply mundane scenario.
He asks the listener to imagine riding on a standard, crowded public bus. He points out that it is incredibly easy for humans to show love to things that have a heart. It requires almost no effort to smile at a fellow passenger, to be kind to your immediate family, or to feed a stray dog. Everyone does that. And because everyone does that, everyone pats themselves on the back and believes they are a good person who possesses true faith. But the speaker argues that this is the leaky roof. He says true, universal love, the specific kind of love that the Creator actually demands for complete salvation, must apply to things without a hurt.
He is expanding the definition of love to include inanimate objects and the broader environment.
He paints this incredibly vivid picture. You're sitting on this bus, and you look down and you see a piece of trash, an empty, crushed plastic bottle rolling around on the dirty floor. Most people, even the people who just smiled at the passenger next to them, will completely ignore it.
Because it's not their mess.
Right. Their internal monologue says, that's not my trash, I didn't drop it, it's not my problem. But the speaker says, if you look at that rolling bottle and choose to ignore it, your faith is a fraud.
He breaks down the exact real-world causality of why picking up that specific piece of trash is the ultimate divine act.
He says picking up that plastic bottle is an act of universal love because you are actively removing a hazard. If you leave it rolling on the floor, an elderly person might step on it as they are getting off the bus. They might slip, fall, and break their hip, ending up in a hospital.
Wow.
So by bending down and picking up a piece of trash that isn't yours, you are quietly protecting a human being you will never even meet.
No.
Furthermore, he says if that bottle is kicked out the doors of the bus, it will roll into a storm drain. It will wash into a river, pollute the water, and choke the fish. So by throwing it away properly, you are actively protecting God's creation, the water, the wildlife, the ecosystem.
It is an incredibly holistic, interconnected view of morality. We started this analysis with wild claims of talking to God in REM sleep and predicting the spin of a roulette wheel. But his ultimate moral directive is profoundly humble. He states that true salvation requires exactly 3 pillars.
What are they?
Change, which he calls padbabego, repentance, which is pagsisi, and complete belief, or lubos na paniwala.
But the absolute key to his entire philosophy is how you execute those 3 pillars.
Exactly. They cannot be performative. They must be executed through unobserved, entirely selfless actions. He draws a sharp contrast between this quiet morality and the behavior of performative religious figures.
Like the loud pastors or the campaigning politicians.
Right, the ones who only do good deeds when there is a camera pointed at them, strictly to garner public praise or secure votes. The speaker believes God is completely unimpressed by loud public worship. In his view, the creator of the universe judges the ultimate worth of your soul based entirely on what you do with a piece of dirty plastic when absolutely no one is watching.
It is the butterfly effect of morality. Picking up one piece of litter is a spiritual act that ripples out to protect the entire universe. It is surprisingly, almost aggressively grounded. After all the supernatural buildup, the ultimate test of your spiritual integrity isn't whether you can predict the future. It's just whether or not you bend down to pick up litter on your daily commute.
It completely strips away all the pomp, circumstance, and financial barriers of organized religion. It democratizes salvation. You don't need disposable income to tithe to a megachurch. You don't need a theology degree to understand ancient texts. And you don't need to live on a secluded mountaintop.
Yeah.
You just need the empathy and the foresight to care about the unseen, mundane consequences of your immediate environment.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Live.m4a, I want you to think about the bizarre, incredible journey we've just taken through this source material. We started with a man going to sleep to receive cosmic voicemails.
And predicting gruesome crimes.
Yeah, predicting confidential political assassinations.
Yeah.
We walked onto the surveillance-heavy floor of an Australian casino to watch him dictate the bounce of a roulette wheel, get banned by the pit bosses, and wear that ban as the ultimate badge of divine honor. And where did all of that heavy supernatural authority lead us? It led us to a deeply practical philosophy about a rolling plastic bottle on a public bus.
If we synthesize everything we've unpacked today, the core takeaway from this speaker's worldview is that knowledge, prophecy, and belief are entirely useless if they exist only in the abstract.
Right.
Having a vision or winning a jackpot doesn't make you holy. Theological debates about the definition of faith don't matter if they don't translate into tangible, protective action in the physical world around us. In this paradigm, faith is not a feeling you hold in your heart. It is a quiet, dirty action taken in the dark when there is no reward to be gained.
Which brings us right back to where we started this conversation. We said at the top of the show that the ultimate proof of the divine usually looks like an ascetic monk on a mountaintop, completely rejecting the messy reality of the world. But this speaker argues the exact opposite.
He does.
He is saying the divine isn't found by escaping the world. It is found in the dirtiest, most overlooked corners of it. It's found under the neon lights of a casino, on the sticky floor of a city bus, and in the discarded litter on your street. So, I will leave you with this final thought to mull over as you go about your day. If our ultimate moral worth is judged entirely by the tiny, unobserved actions we take to protect things that cannot even thank us, how differently will you walk down the street tomorrow?